Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mindful Mondays. Hey, if you are a parent that was instantly turned into a homeschool parent, in addition to all of your other responsibilities, and you've been home for the past couple months, or maybe you're a caretaker and just feeling a little bit crispy, tired, and worn out, you are really going to enjoy today. I've got two great members of our team who are with us today who are parents, not only parents, but professional educators who just love and care for kids. And not only that, I want you to pay attention to the resources that are listed at the bottom of the email that is sent out today, because these ladies offer through Saddleback College some great parenting classes that are absolutely free. So you want to be sure to check that out and enjoy today. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, and welcome to Mindful Mondays. My name is Cheryl Clem, and I'm so glad that you joined us for today. I have two awesome members of our team here with us today to give us their expertise and experience and advice related to parenting and caretaking. Many parents were thrown into being homeschool parents and juggling jobs and multiple children all at the same time. I know some of you, even at our church, are watching other people's kids because they're in frontline essential jobs. And so you're watching their children so that they can work. And others of you may have caretaking responsibilities for elderly neighbors or parents. And so this whole idea of not only parenting, but caretaking is something that both of these ladies are going to help us with. And so I'd like to introduce Martine Weir. And Martine reached out to me. She is the foster kin care education director with Saddleback College. And she'll explain more about that, but they offer courses and education to support parents and provide information education for them. And Erin Kim is one of the instructors for that program, and she's here with us today. She's also a mentor parent. And so Martine, let me just invite you into the conversation. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Cheryl. What we do at Saddleback College, there's a program called the Foster Kinship Care Education Program. And we offer free parenting classes to caregivers who are caring for kiddos, whether they're foster parents, adoptive parents, relatives that are caring for children, or biological parents. The wonderful thing about our program is all of our classes are completely free, open to the community. We offer them in Spanish and in English, and now they're all online. Traditionally, they were in person, but for now that's suspended, and all of our classes are online.
And that is amazing, Martine, that all of this is free and everybody can participate in this, correct? It's
Absolutely.
not, yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Who would benefit from these courses?
Oof, I think, a lot of parents right now, especially, we've tailored some newer topics, especially for parents dealing with the stress of COVID. So things like dealing with stress, adjusting your mindset, self-care, and all of our trainers are incredibly experienced professionals who just have a real heart to support families.
That's wonderful. And Erin, tell us a little bit about what you do for the program and really just anything else that you think would be helpful as we start this discussion today for people to know about you.
Sure. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Erin Kim, and I work with Martine in the Foster Kinship Care Education program at Saddleback College. I'm one of the trainers. And I also support resource families, which is the official term these days for foster families in the state of California. So I'm just passionate about families. I'm passionate about vulnerable children and supporting them. I'm also a foster and adoptive mom as well, and currently a mom of 4, 2 children biologically and 2 that my husband and I adopted through the foster care system. And I have a house full right now. We have 7 kids in our home. 3, my sister and her girls live with us too. So I am right there with all of you in the thick of this crazy parenting season, and just trying to get through. So happy to be here today.
Yeah, wow, 7 children. Boy, I'll say you're right in the thick of it. Yeah, so you've applied all of these things you're going to share with us today, right? You're going to tell us how it works.
Hopefully, some days better than others, right? But
yeah, good. Well, Martine, start us out by telling us maybe some of the things that we can do if we're a caretaker or a parent who's been living through this season, the last 8 to 10 weeks. And what is your best advice as we now kind of regroup and maybe even learn how to catch our breath here and find out what the new normal is?
Okay, first I want to kind of step back and kind of define self-care. It's kind of a mushy concept, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. It's basically anything you do deliberately to help care for yourself emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so it's very unique to each person, and it's actually very critical to be able to maintain a sense of balance, a sense of equilibrium, and to help regulate your central nervous system. So this isn't a luxury. It's not being selfish or self-centered. It's basically self-preservation so that you can be there. You can be present. You can respond with love for the kiddos or your family members or other loved ones. So it's, I really want to kind of, discard the notion that it's a treat. It's essential. And I think sometimes we don't realize how important it is for ourselves. We know it's important for our kids, but we need to make sure that we're really prioritizing self-care. And
I'm going to interrupt you just a minute because I want to emphasize what you brought up, that number one, it changes our central nervous system. It biologically changes our calmness, our brain, our ability to cope and deal, and to be able to lead through stress and kind of juggle all of these things. And so keep that in mind. This is not a luxury. We're not talking about a day at the spa, although that would be lovely. We are talking about essential skills that we must do to have now the capacity to care for others. So continue, Martine, but that was such an important point.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. So a few just concepts, and then I'm going to just get a little detailed about a couple of them. The first one, I think, is a practice of checking in with yourself to see how you're feeling, to see how you're doing, your mind, your body, your soul, to check in. How am I doing today? What am I feeling like? What do I need? The second step would be to identify more specifically what those needs are. And I put those needs in 2 different categories. One is basic. Are you eating lunch? Were you able to brush your teeth and take a shower today? And the other big segment of needs is other types of needs. So needs for connection, needs for maybe alone time, need for physical movement, need for creativity, and so on and so on. The other thing, the next big topic would be prioritizing those needs. And I think that's where we as caretakers and parents sometimes think that we'll do it later or when the kids are in bed. And right now, this is a really unusual time. These are not normal times. Our stressors are very great. We're absorbing not just what's going on in our world, our community, but also what our kids are having to deal with or try to deal with. And so it's super important that we prioritize it and that we also verbalize it to people in our home, or let's say our spouse or our children. Mommy's going to take a bath after lunch. That we make it known these are some of the things that we need to do. And of course, we need to be very creative, especially because we might not have the outlets that we normally do. And I also like to talk about the concepts of pockets, like a pocket in a coat. For me, this was kind of like revolutionary, because what I thought of when I think about this term pockets, instead of thinking I don't have time for self-care, I can't go off for 2 hours, I don't have a babysitter, it's COVID, I can't go out into the spa. Pockets is just more, what are little segments of time that you can find to find things that refresh and nurture you? It could be 5 minutes. It could be 15 minutes. And so that then you redefine little moments that you can give to yourself to nurture. And basically, self-care is all about agreeing with God that you're a human being, that you have limits, and that you need to be able to refresh yourself and get nurturing and so on. Just a few quick suggestions on just practical tips for self-care. Really prioritize staying connected with people that mean something to you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunities with social media, but really make that a focus to stay connected at least once a day, whether it's text or phone or email or any other social media, or even in person if you're doing the social distancing with folks. Another thing I really encourage is to listen to inspirational podcasts and music. I have classical music playing all the time in my house. I have a grandson that I'm helping a lot with. He's 2. Mommy's a little burned out. He's a rambunctious 2-year-old, and I'm, helping, and we have classical music on all the time, and it suits me just to have that there. Also, allow yourself to accept help. If you're finding that there's not enough support for you, don't hesitate to ask for additional support. And we're going to talk about that at the end of this Mindful Mondays.
Awesome. I love the concept of pockets, because you think of it as just being, something kind of small and neat that will just fit right in there. And that, I think, is such a really good visual. And just this whole idea that caring, like parenting and caretaking. So taking care of others begins with taking care of ourselves. And so, Erin, what about that concept? What do you do as a parent, and what do you see? You deal with parents all the time, and that's your expertise. So what advice do you have for us?
Thanks for that description, Martine. I think it really creates such a great visual. And the whole time you were speaking, I always tend to kind of go, I'm an advocate for kids. It is what I believe is part of why I'm on this earth, is to advocate for kids. And I do that through supporting families. And I think one of the most important things that you're talking about is if it starts with us as the parent, as the caregiver, because our stress goes on to our kids, whether we want to pass it along or not. And they also respond to our stress, whether we want them to or not. And so I think for me, it's just that reminder for those of us that have been educated within the impacts of childhood trauma on children, specifically with foster and adoption. One of the greatest gifts that we can give as a caregiver is to help buffer our child's stress. To see ourselves as that buffer when their little worlds are in chaos, which we know many of them have lost so much right now. They've lost getting up every day and going to their classrooms. Our older kids, I'm a parent of 3 teens right now, and just watching teenagers grieve so much right now. So we know that this time of being at home has impacted kids on every level, every age. In our home, we have from 4 to 17. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit of a sneak preview into some different parenting stages and how this traumatic time has impacted everybody. So I really believe that it does start with us as the caregivers. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't have much to give to our kids. And we also don't have much to help buffer the stress for them. The more I parent and the older my kids get, I realize one of my greatest roles is helping them learn how to regulate emotion, helping them learn how to deal with stress. And it's the best tools that I can give them as they hopefully fly the nest and become, adults that are high functioning and in good relationships, is learning how to manage stress. So it starts with us, and our kids watch us. They watch how we respond. And we also, get to shield, especially our little ones, shield them from some things that they don't need to know, that are too heavy for them to carry. The world, there's so much hard pain in the world, and we get that opportunity to be that stress buster and buffer to our children. But we can't do it if we're not okay ourselves. And it really does start with that.
Yeah, I love that word, Erin. It's really so appropriate that parents, and again, even in a caretaker role, that you are that buffer. You are that buffer between what's going on in the world and what, yeah, and them and their emotional regulation, and teaching that. We see that obviously in the counseling office, in the therapy world too, where parents will come in and they'll say, they'll kind of expect you to fix their child. And part of it begins with really building a relationship with that parent and understanding the dynamics in the family and helping them with that as well. And part of that is teaching both them and the child those emotional regulation skills that you talked about. And I assume that's one of your classes. Is that true?
I would say it's a huge part of almost all of our classes. And the reason is because, we do specialize specifically with foster care and adoption, and all of those children have experienced some sort of trauma. So it's one of those tools that for foster and adoptive parents, you almost have to be a little bit more heightened, because our children have been impacted in different ways emotionally. But I parent children that have not gone through trauma, not huge significant traumas, and I use those tools with them as well. And I think the longer I parent both kids that have had a trauma in their past and haven't, I realize those tools are exactly the same, and they're gifts for all my kids, and something that's important for, I think, all caregivers to know and to help build and instill in our kids.
Yeah, yeah. No, those skills are very, very important. And sometimes as parents, we don't know that, or maybe we weren't taught that. And so I think it's perfect that you brought that up. So let's talk a little bit about dealing with kids, dealing with others, really. Some of this is just really about relationship. And in a way, we've all been through some level of trauma through this. Anytime there's a sudden change that impacts daily life in terms of the quality of daily life and the underlying security of things, then we've all experienced some level of trauma. So Martine, talk a little bit about your advice on just our dealing with kids and dealing with others, our expectations, and what we can do to help our kids and to help others that we might be caring for.
Well, one of the things I mentioned is to adjust your expectations. These are not normal times. And so we need to really realize that the standard that we may have had before COVID, it needs to be re-examined and see what's feasible for your family, and understand that it's always changeable. You can make changes to it, but if you're not functioning or you're not able to kind of stay kind of in a balanced state, something needs to be adjusted, whether you need to seek out some extra support or whether you need to make some changes to your expectations of what you expect of maybe your children, maybe the cleanliness of your home, maybe the expectations you put on activities you want to try to do in the home. And so you need to be very flexible and realize I need to kind of dial it down, give myself a lot of grace, a lot of compassion, the very same type of treatment we would give others who are going through a difficult time, and realize that I need to kind of adjust my expectations of myself and other people. Another thing that's important to do is to make sure you're expecting enough, however, of, let's say, your children. Don't do things for them that you know they can do for themselves. If little kiddos can put their clothes in a hamper or make their sandwiches, you don't need to put an undue burden right now because you are carrying a lot. And so that's something to really be mindful of as well.
Well, and it's an opportunity in some ways to have them, because they're at home more and maybe, not in, playing with friends or that type of thing, to where they're not just, if they're a teen, they're behind the door, gaming, or if they're kids, they're just following normal routine, but to be able to use this time to be able to empower them and teach them and help them feel capable of doing these things for themselves. And it helps both you and them.
And one of the things I want to just add to that, if it's okay at this time, is about really having compassion for your children. Because I
Mm.
think we can sometimes forget what it's like to be a child. They don't have the decades, some of us have more decades than others, of just life experience. We all know we're going to get through this, and we all know that God has purpose for things that happen to us, and that we're going to be okay. But little ones may not have that same sense of experience or kind of sense of security that some of us who are mature have. And so it's really important to have compassion. I like what Erin talked about, the teenagers, the loss. And all ages have significant loss, except maybe the brand new little ones. But, the 3 and 4-year-olds, the elementary school children, the teens. And I was reading something recently about teens. Their very task is to separate from mommy and daddy. And here they're stuck at home with them. How horrible is that? I just understand that. And also, I think what adds to the fact that we're all struggling, but especially with the kids, it's like there's no hard end date right now for when to be back to normal. It's kind of this fuzzy, murky, slight opening, and that's kind of stressful too, because you don't always know what you can do, what you want to do. So I think really having compassion and make sure your kids are able to express themselves to you. Make sure that they have outlets, physical activity, creative outlets. And understand too that how your teen might express him or herself is very different from your little ones you might see more behavior changes. And so be really mindful that this is very challenging for them as well.
I think that point is so important. Children are different, and we have some families that we're talking to that may have a special needs child and different age groups of children. And so the differences and adjusting our expectations and having compassion and kindness, I just think that is good advice in the world. Like, everybody has been so stressed and put under so much pressure. And oftentimes when I'm out at maybe the store or walking my dog or what have you, sometimes people are just kind and they'll say hello, and people are respectful and honoring and keeping distance and making you feel safe. And then sometimes people are just distant and cranky and crabby. So I wish that the kindness theme is just something, and truthfully, it's something that even in just my own self-assessment of through this time, I made that a priority of just being more mindful of how I come across to other and just giving extra grace and being kind. Like, I set that as a personal goal, because it is a time when we can lose, when maybe we're not at our best and stuff comes out sideways. And sometimes I just think to myself, oh my gosh, that was not the best version of me. So we can be mindful of that, right? And so Erin, tell us a little about a bit about mom of 7. So we're our ears are wide open here. What advice do you have just on grace and expectations?
Well, fortunately, we have an extra parent in our house, so that's always nice. My sister does live with us too, so 3 of them are my nieces, and then 4 belong to us. But yeah, I mean, I think what Martine shared is so poignant, and I do believe it impacts everybody so differently. I think, I've watched my family through this, and I have a husband who has picked up all of these fun household jobs, and backyard looks beautiful now, and he's building things. I mean, he literally goes to Home Depot almost every day. And when I kind of asked him about it, and I'm not arguing because my house looks better than it's probably been in years, but when I asked him about it, he said, it's because I can see results. He said, my job is really frustrating right now. He's lost significant amount of business because of COVID-19. And so by working in the yard and building things and doing home improvements, he's able to see some sort of progression, and it's giving him some satisfaction. So that's how he is dealing with this stressful time.
And I think that I want to pause there just because I think that is really such a good suggestion.
Yes.
And even giving our kids things or creating maybe projects for our kids. I think, again, going back to that, empowerment of, I feel, helping our teens feel capable, helping our children feel capable. But part of that is giving them something to do where they can quickly see the result at a time when everything feels like we're waiting and there's this pause. That's really good stuff. So
yeah, and as an adult, he can express that, right? But our kids sometimes can't express why they're doing what they're doing. I have a daughter that has some significant needs, and one of her challenges is depression. And so during this time, and we just right before we got on this call, we had a long conversation about it, because she just said, "Mom, it's extra hard when you have depression. It's extra hard to get up and to get motivated for these school phone calls." And so, with her, it's always, a little bit of sunshine every day, a little bit of exercise every day, and what are some things that are going to bring you joy and kind of keep you motivated. So I think it looks really different for each person. I think what's been fascinating for me is some of my children have thrived during this time, and others have really struggled. And it's actually been kind of surprising which ones did. It's been a little bit of an interesting, I have one daughter that's pretty high achieving and really does great in school, and has kind of feeling really a lack of motivation right now. And I have a son who is major athlete, and for him not having his sports, we keep joking he is so much more angry and edgy and short, and we just say, "Go run, go do something, please," because we miss the happy side of you. So I think it's a reminder that I think the commonality right now is stress. I think every single person is going through stress. I think our responses to stress look really different. And so giving for our family, because we have so many people under one roof, giving everybody that grace to deal with the stress and express the stress in sometimes, not so great ways, and giving them the grace in that. And Cheryl, just kind of what you talked about earlier, one of the things that we always talk about with caregivers is that children, express through behavior, right? They don't express what they need through words very much. We have to teach them that. That's a tool that they have to learn as they grow. So kids communicate with their behaviors. And so I think that's something that I would encourage families right now is you are going to probably see some behaviors that are frustrating and hard and challenging, and maybe that you've never seen before. But I think for me, I have to remind myself, as every one of our family members is going through stress. They've lost significant things. They're having to learn a whole new set of ways of doing life. And it's hard. I know when we started doing all of our classes online, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to learn how to talk on Zoom and how to do a 2-hour class on Zoom. And now that I'm doing it, I'm enjoying it. And I hope it'll kind of be a part of my future in teaching. But we've all had to learn new ways of doing life through these last 3 months. And I think an extra dose of grace for each and every one of us is the most important thing to get through it.
Yeah, and I love the word that you used, which is that they can see, like, pay attention, be mindful of our response. And I know in therapy, when working with families a lot, there's a model that is used called CALM, and you see different variations of it, but the overall idea is that you present as a parent a calm profile. And what CALM stands for is again, there's different versions of it, but we talk about connection, having eye contact or some sort of connection. And then A is affirmation, just affirming the child. I see you. I see that you're upset. Listening, which is a really important, tell me more about what is causing you to be so upset. And then the M stands for modeling. And so it's connecting, affirming, listening, modeling, overall presence of calm. And I find that just that quick soundbite can really help parents to think about their overall presence and then be able to break that down into some practical things that they can do. Because what I hear you saying, our response matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So ladies, our time is short. So Martine, share with me anything that you would like for people to hear just to wrap up this particular conversation. And then I also want both of you to tell us a little bit more at the end about what resources are available. But just what are maybe, Martine, one or two closing thoughts, pieces of encouragement or advice that you would have for people?
I would say lean hard into your faith, lean hard into God's promises. There's amazing verses. I'm going to just read a couple. One is, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown." And I think when we're feeling like we're submerging under just the weight of everything, we need to say, Father, I need help. I need you. I need your peace, your patience, your joy, financial resources. You know, he's our Heavenly Father. He wants to meet our needs. And I think we need to invite him into every aspect of our life very deliberately. One of the things too, I just want to mention briefly is self-care means definitely feeding your spiritual self. So it means an active role, whether it's Bible reading, Bible study, praying, meditation, being out in nature. We need to really feed that part of ourselves, and that's really, really important. And also we need to reach out to the community for support. If we feel like our tribe or our village is kind of thin right now, or people aren't really able to be there for us, we need to make sure and find other places to connect.
Yeah, I think that is really good. It's really that basic concept, right? Of output is determined by input. Like what we're able to give out to people is determined by what kind of input we have. And we need those input resources and people and good skills and tools and information. So that's so important. And so Erin, one or two closing thoughts from you for everyone.
Sure. I think the thing I've been thinking about the most through this time is, I think on the surface we can see all of the hard things that that this time has brought out. And so what my reminder to myself through this whole time is, what are the gifts in the midst of this? Immediately when things kind of started shutting down and going off of our calendars and everybody just had that moment of panic, there were some certain things that were happening in our family, and I just thought, oh God, your timing is so interesting. And so for me, my perspective has been, there's been so many gifts during this time. There's a lot of hard things, and I think so many families have lost so much, and I wish it would have never had to happen this way. But I also so strongly believe that God gives us gifts in the midst of trials and of heartache and hard things. And so I know for our family, the gift of time together, the gift of teenagers having to stay home. And, I have one that's very close to college, and just the gift of the time with her. So that would be my encouragement, is what are the gifts in this, and helping our kids to see the gifts in it as well. And remembering that through every trial, just as Martine said, God is with us, and there's lessons to be learned. And so what can we learn during this time? I find myself not wanting things to go back to normal too quickly, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose those gifts. I'm afraid I'm going to forget the things and the messages and the things that I'm supposed to remember during this time. So that would be my just parting words, is, as hard as it is, and I know it is hard for so many of us, but what are those special gifts that God is speaking to us through this time, and trying to hold on to them.
Yeah, so good. So good. Thank you both. So in closing, just want to let everybody know the parenting classes that Erin and Martine mentioned at the beginning here are available to everyone, and they're online right now. They'll be live as soon as they can, but they're available to parents. And I think that is an amazing gift. So we'll put those resources on the blog and the email that goes out. We'll also put them on the Mountain View Church website. But quick Reader's Digest version, anything else that you want parents to know about the program and about what's available to them? Martine?
Oh, sure. Well, we have a variety of topics, probably almost any topic you could think of related to challenges of parenting. And we've tailored some topics to special needs during COVID. And so we have topics from things like bullying, the effects of trauma, things like social media, cyber safety, all the way to self-care and how to deal with birth parents. So the topics are many and varied. And most of our classes are 2 hours and they're at all different times. So some of the Zoom classes are during the lunch, some in the evening, some on Saturdays, and they're taught by, most of our trainers are licensed marriage and family therapists, psychologists, very highly trained and experienced trainers who, like I mentioned earlier, just have a real heart. And often many of them are foster adoptive parents, as Erin is as well. So they come with such experience and knowledge and really want to support the family. So you're going to come away from taking a class that, wow, how I felt really supported. That's really the feedback that we get. People really enjoy taking our classes with trainers like Erin, as you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so grateful for what both of you do, that you have given your life to love kids and families and teens and just provide these resources. We'll put all of this information online for everybody. And I am grateful for both of you. Erin, thank you so much for your time, expertise. And Martine, thank you so much for reaching out to me to let me know that this was even available, and for spending your time to get this out to the people who are listening here in our audience. So thank you both. Thank you,
Happy to
Erin.
be here. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for being here. All of the information will go out in the email. You can always look on our website. And if you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me at cheryl@mvc.life. I can get you connected to Martine and to Erin if you have any further questions. So thanks for being here today, and we'll see you next week.